I'm going to be talking to Hannah Hemphill, who is the director of the recently launched ScaleUp program at the Haskayne School of Business, University of Calgary, which will help Alberta tech startups that want to grow their revenues, capital, or team by 5 times within 24 to 36 months. So welcome to the interview, Hannah.
Thank you for having me.
Now, this is really interesting because I do a lot of American energy and climate reporting. And in the US, scaling up technology startups is almost an art. They've got an innovation ecosystem. They've got sources of capital. They've got government policies at both the federal and usually at the state level, particularly in places like California and Texas and so on, that are technology hubs. And we've got some of that in Canada, but it's really nice to see it in Western Canada. So why don't we start with an overview of ScaleUp and maybe about its roots in the Creative Destruction Lab at the U of C.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, ScaleUp is really building off of the success of Creative Destruction Lab Rockies that they've had. That's also housed at Haskayne School of Business, which is University of Calgary. And their support was, or their focus is really on supporting startups with deep science and tech. And actually, many of our first cohort companies are graduates of CDL, and now they're moving from being a startup to like scaling their company and taking it global. And this is like a much different issue. And in Alberta, we have had this influx. There's over 2,000 startups in Alberta now. The ecosystem is really growing in the last 5 years. And now it's kind of the next step. So we saw this and we're creating ScaleUp with the Haskayne School of Business, and we are here to really support their CEOs and their executive teams to build capacity so that they can scale their clean tech innovation globally. And we're going to do this through experiential learning, mentorship, a peer-to-peer network. And our companies, they have a product in market, they have customers, they have revenue, but they're at this really interesting critical inflection point to scale. And they really want to improve the environmental sustainability.
Now, economists talk about if we're talking about the innovation cycle, so the company, the product moves from the lab, it moves out into maybe a demonstration phase, a little plant or something. And then they get to that point where the valley of death. You've got something that looks like it's going to be commercial, but you need to scale it up. And the private capital won't, is reluctant. And so many innovations sort of wither on the vine because they can't get over that valley of death. Is that part of what ScaleUp is designed to do?
A little bit. I would say Creative Destruction Lab Rockies really helps them with taking that commercialization, making sure that they have something that can be in market and go those places. Our companies have proven that there is a tech, they're in the market, they actually have customers and they have revenue. But there's this point where they need to scale that. And right now they probably have around 15 to 30 employees. And when we're looking at scaling innovation like this, they will go from 60 to 90, 120 employees in 1 year alone. And so you need to make sure that you have repeatable systems, you have all of these, you have culture, you have leadership, and all of these things that are kind of embedded into your company so that you can reach this kind of global innovation. Because so many people think this might be a local innovation race, but this is a global innovation race.
I really want to address that because I interview every month. I interview dozens of international energy and climate experts from the U.S., Europe, Asia, and we talk about this a lot about how quickly the energy transition and the economic restructuring around that has accelerated in the last, since the start of the pandemic in particular, and I don't think Canadians, and I say this all the time, my viewers are probably tired of hearing me say it, but I don't think Canadians understand just the warp speed at which these changes are taking place. We don't have a decade or two, we have 2 to 5 years. Yeah. And if these startups we're talking about, or they're now immature companies, we'll call them maybe, if they don't have this kind of support, the chances of them succeeding in this hyper-competitive, really rapidly changing market space, it's very difficult.
Yeah, it is very difficult. I also think that we have companies that have scaled out of Alberta. They know how to do this. And so if we can take these experienced CEOs and their teams to show them how to replicate and how to do this, many of our clean tech companies are first-time CEOs. And so what happens when we put this ecosystem of support around them and their executive team? So they really start to move from being, when you're in startup phase, you are doing everything. You're the doer. And then when you move into scaling a company, you need to be a delegator. You need to build a leadership team around you. You need to inspire your employees. And it will happen quickly, but it's a fine balance, because especially in clean tech, some of these innovations can take 5 to 10 years to really understand what we're doing and how we put it into place. So we definitely have a short time to meet some of our net zero commitments. And this is an incredible market. I was just actually reading that it said $2.5 trillion global market opportunity is on the table for clean tech development. That's huge.
Well, that's absolutely right. And I would be surprised if it's not a much bigger number by the time we're well into this decade. So let's talk about the focus for ScaleUp is going to be clean tech companies in energy and agriculture. And of course, given our interest here at Energy Media, we'll focus on the energy side of this. So how many companies have you got? I gather you're early in the process here. You're just getting familiar with the companies that are going to be in the program. Can you tell us anything about them?
Yeah, absolutely. On our website, on the Haskayne website, we list all the 8 companies. We just came out with a press release. We will be getting to know these companies over the next 9 months. It's a 9-month program where they really dive in. And so we have anywhere from carbon capture, which you hear a lot in clean tech, but there's so much other innovations, from nanofilters to, we have a company called Future Fields that is actually using fruit flies for some innovation. So it's really, really interesting how to do lithium extraction ethically. So it really depends on what you're looking at. But honestly, when I look at these companies, the innovation is quite mind-blowing. Out of 8 companies that are sitting here, and they're at this critical inflection point, they're either about to raise, or they have raised a Series A, which is anywhere from 2 million to 20 million. And so this is the point where we can surround them with so much support so that they can scale out of Alberta.
Now, if I remember correctly, Summit Nanotech is one of your companies, is it not?
Yes. Yeah.
Now, we've interviewed Amanda Hall, the CEO there, who it's an amazing story, because she was a geophysicist working at CNRL, and nobody, well, I guess I shouldn't have mentioned her employer, but since I did, her bosses wouldn't listen to her ideas. So she said, "Fine with you, I'll take these out and I'll go do it myself." And she's the nanofilters for the extracting lithium from briny water. And now she was just last year voted the Canada's top female entrepreneur. And her company's, the negotiating contracts in Chile. I mean, this is the kind of opportunity, the potential to work in this field that Alberta companies have, and it's a tremendous story.
Yeah, they're all phenomenal. Her story is also phenomenal, and what she's been able to do in this short time. And also now, how do we replicate this so that this technology that she's using can go global? And how does she have the employees in place, and the leadership and the culture and the repeatable kind of structure in order to make that happen? So what I love about our program is that, yes, for this pilot year, we are focused in on clean tech innovation. But what we're sitting here doing is, they know their innovation. We're not here to go at their tech. We are here to bring in the leadership and all of these other pieces that they need on a daily basis within their organization to be able to scale. We love the innovation. They know the tech. They are the experts in this. And now we're going to surround them with an ecosystem of support.
Well, Hannah, you've got 8 companies to start with. Where do you see this program being in 2 to 5 years?
I think that's a great question. We're in pilot. So we have dreams, but we also really need to walk this pilot out and listen to the feedback and see where these things go. But when we look at the ecosystem, especially in Alberta, we're seeing so many startups, but there's a point where they need to go from startup to scale up. And so I know that we'll be able to look at other areas like health, like energy, doing different types of pieces depending on where this goes. And then with the great success of CDL Rockies, there are so many different streams that we can really help companies. So, first steps, let's do this pilot, let's get the feedback, let's really see what we need to do. But I'm confident that we're going to build a scaling ecosystem alongside of the startup ecosystem that we already have here in Alberta.
Well, one final question, because I get asked occasionally by students, and I mean, sort of senior high school students and maybe university students, where are the jobs going to be in the future? And I always point to this, the technology of some kind. I mean, whether it's trades in building the infrastructure, whether it's, researchers at the university or in private labs, or if it's working as some kind of a technology job in a startup or a young company. There's just so much opportunity here. If any, if a parent of a student or a student happens to watch this, are there opportunities in your program for them to maybe contact the companies, contact you, to see if there's a role they could play with these companies?
Yeah, absolutely. We did a whole bunch of customer discovery before we even launched the program, talked to so many scaling companies, including all of these clean tech companies. And the one thing they said over and over and over was, we need talent. We need talent. And so if you really have a passion for this industry, or really tap into your natural skills and ability and how you can apply it, please reach out to me. We're going to have 8 companies that are going through this program that we will know what their needs are and how we can help them and put them in touch with people that may not even know that this was an opportunity.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Well, look, thank you very much for this, Hannah. Good luck with ScaleUp. I hope it's a huge success.
Thank you so much.